to my channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if it's your first time here. If you've been here before, make sure you hit the like button. So I've been blessed to work with clients for over a decade. And I've been working in personal training for about 20 years, coaching and building up our business. In the last 15 years, I've been in Northern California. And it's kind of interesting of what I have learned with working with a client for that amount of time. And I want to kind of share some of those thought processes of how that happens and what to do if you're working in a client-based business. How do you develop relationships that extends that long? Because most personal trainers when they work with clients, maybe 1 to 2 years is the shelf life. But we have been blessed, and I've been blessed to be able to work with clients where my average is 8 years. And that's great because that allows you to truly build your business and be successful as a coach. So I'm going to break it down into a couple things: how I start, how I maintain, and how does it equate to become decades. And so the important thing is that you find your style, but there's certain things I feel like stay true to who you are as you develop these relationships. First thing is that you got to care to want to do it. You got to want to be a coach. You got to want to see the success of the person you're involving yourself with and you're attaching yourself with, no matter what their goals are. And that's one of the biggest things. That's how you start. Is once you have agreed on the relationship of, I'm going to work with you towards your set goal, you have to really nail down what that goal is and the why. Why do they have that goal? And why is it important for them to go after that goal? And once you start to learn those little things, you can really get to understand what motivates that person, what is the insecurities in that goal, what are the possible pinch points that will mean a lot to them because of how you listen. So finding out the goal, number one, when you start, and then you have to build the trust. And the way to build the trust, there's several ways to build the trust. You can build the trust with your reputation. You can build the trust with your knowledge of the actual skill of what you're doing. So if you're working with somebody who wants to get stronger legs, or they're a tennis player, you kind of break down the movements that they're doing and why they're doing them, explaining how to equate those things. And one of the little tricks that I do is when I start working with somebody, I find out what their couple of pinpoints are. What are a couple of little injuries or little things that are like holding them back? And if I can address it right away and give them a quick fix. So like something that's common is like tightness in the shoulder or in the traps. If I can tell them the trick about rolling out their lats and how that releases, usually 70% of the time, some of that little work will give them some relief. That starts to build trust. Oh, it worked. If they're having some tightness in their knee, and it might be because I can see their IT or their hip is tight, and I give them a couple of tricks of how to stretch or roll out their hips in a correct way, and they get relief, that builds up trust. If I just show up consistently in that first month, and I'm sending them things that they're interested in that will help them get towards their goal, that builds trust. Putting in the effort outside of the session time is another great way to do that. And that also, what helps build that trust is those type of things, but building a genuine rapport with that person. So if you can start with that, you can start to get off the little goals or the little things that they didn't even realize, like little injuries that have been nagging them in the moment or for years. If there's ways to kind of take care of the acute stuff first, because often you got to take care of the acute stuff. You got to build a foundation, and then you can kind of go to the next steps. And if you can get them to that goal, then we talk about how you're going to maintain. One of the biggest things that I preach to our team and to that like lives in the ethos of our business is consistency. So, you don't want to be consistently bad, but you want to be consistently, somebody that they can count on, somebody that is routinely there, somebody who says They're going to do something when they do it. And those types of processes of like focusing on the consistency, the day to day, because often a lot of service business have a hard time doing that. And it's not easy. It's kind of one of those simple things to say, I'm going to be consistent, but it's tough because stuff happens. So focusing on that consistency is a big piece. The next thing is hit some of those goals out of the park. So some of the goals that you started with when you first start with them, you want to do, and then some of the other goals that you just want to make sure that you kill it, you lose the weight, you get the inches, they do something, if they had a triathlon, you help them maintain that. That is all things that will help that board, that scoreboard in their head of like, oh, he helped me, she helped me get to that point quicker. We got a little timeout here, so I just want to make sure if you're liking what's going on, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the like button. We have a little guest that had to be a part of the conversation. My dog here, Penny, she wanted to build the connection, which makes my next point. So one of the tricks that I've learned too with when you're working with somebody, once you're kind of a month, 3 months, 4 months in, is you start to kind of try to find who else is in their inner circle. Because when you have, making big changes in your life can be lonely. And if you can get somebody, you can get their closer inner circle involved in their goal, it only enhances their success. And it also doesn't put all the pressure on you as a coach to be everything to that client. So those are opportunities that I'll use is like, hey, yeah, if somebody says, hey, my cousin's in town or my mom's in town, can they join? I say yes. Sometimes I don't even charge them for it. Yes, bring them along, because I want them to see what the journey, give them another look, and build the rapport with that person so that you have a community behind your client's goal. And that in itself kind of staples itself where I become more than just the coach. I become a little bit more of a friend. I build that rapport, and I work with them in goals that are not only about wellness and fitness, sometimes can be about life, because then I can incorporate the different lessons I've learned from other clients, and I can take this cloud of information I have of working with 40 so clients and bring it to them and say, oh, I've seen scenarios like this, and this is how other clients have done it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And obviously, one of the things that is unique about it, then I can take, you have to use good discretion in explaining those stories so that, you're not explaining other people's business, but you use the lessons within the story. Doesn't always need names to be able to explain, something to a client to help them get through a patch that they're not understanding or they're having a tough time with. So once you do that and you've hit some goals, you've built a rapport, you've developed connections with some of the people in their inner circles, they are now ready for those next steps. And then how do I take this into making a decade-long relationship? Really, is you kind of repeat the process. Then you come back and you evolve with the client, because what you'll see is that if you're starting to do a good job, the client will start to evolve, and it's not all on your influence, it's on their work, their self-work too. And you have to be able to step up to the plate and evolve with them. And what you'll see is what things they start to become more interesting to them, what are some of the highs and lows that are starting to happen to them, what are the just natural changes, if they have kids, are their kids starting to have kids, are they getting to a point in their life where they're about to retire, or they're about to shift to a new kind of space professionally. And so you need to start to evolve with them and help them clear the cobwebs in their decision making. And the ways you do that is obviously I do that still through the workouts, but as having conversations of like, what is your next goals? What does that look like? and then taking those professional goals and be like, okay, so if you're interested in starting a new business that's very intensive in hours and stuff like that, how are you going to take care of yourself from a wellness perspective so that's sustainable? And we start to talk through that and start to kind of build out a plan and understand what, what that's going to take out of them, and what things and structures do we need to build before they go into that process. And it just only makes them more successful in that process in doing that. The other thing is I continue to be a cheerleader for that client. And one of the things that I've learned is that oftentimes, this is underrepresented in a way, is that being a cheerleader is very underrated. And what I mean by that is that oftentimes people are getting negative, like little pricks and sometimes bullet holes into things that are happening to them day to day. People, in a way, saying they can't do something, saying that they are limited, just natural things like COVID, and just natural things that happen in life. They're late for something because of traffic. All these little things is boom, boom, boom of things they can't do. And what I've learned is that I rarely say no to a client about their goals if they can achieve something. What I try to do, I try to reframe it, even if I think the goal is pretty up there or pretty outside of what typically would fit into their mantra. What I will say is, yeah, we can go after that goal. This is what it takes to go after that goal. And then I will have them evaluate what it takes for that goal. And that will help set the framework for their future. But I say it in a positive way. I'm telling them they can do it. I'm just telling them what it takes to do it. And it's just it's a subtle thing versus saying, yeah, I don't think that's right for you. You can imagine how that feels if you've worked this grand kind of plan and idea in your head that you think you're going to be able to do this thing and you can't. So being that cheerleader is very imperative and is very underrated. You want to begin to, another way to kind of expand over the decades is kind of coming back to that connection inner circle, is actually starting to expand into their inner circle and elevating their inner circle's wellness and opportunities. So I've done this oftentimes where I've started with a person, then I've started working with their partner, then I started working with their child, and then I started to work with other people that they are friends with or professionally. And before you know it, their clan is elevating with them. And they want to be a part of that story also. So it just extends the time life of that connection. So find those type of opportunities when you're working with a client is very key. And when they invite you to their biggest moments, try to go. Try your best to go to their child's graduation, their birthdays that are significant for them. If they invite you to something that is significant for them, do your best to be there, because then it just shows that support and shows, that you're invested in them and you're invested in their success. This is the last thing, and this is a hard one to maneuver, but you can often be a great connector, because if you're a successful coach or trainer, you often have a lot of clients who, and luckily if you work in different industries, you have a diverse level of clients who've had different business skills. And you build these connections, and sometimes it gives you a little bit of power, but you understand to use this power in a good way of, if you know that a client is struggling with something and you have another client who could potentially solve that problem, is sometimes being the broker in between that, not for any money, just only for the success of each person. I will often broker those opportunities for people to connect, to extend that. And now you become a bigger resource other than just the wellness. You're actually helping them with their success. And that's what makes me a success coach. So just one quick recap of how you can do this for working with a client for decades, is you focus on how you start, you work on their goals, you work on building trust, you then focus on maintaining those relationships, getting some big wins with the goals, and then you want to find a deep connection or find a connection with somebody in their inner circle. And then to keep it going, you evolve with the client, you become a cheerleader, when they invite you to their biggest moments, be there, and then you use all your resources and you put it behind them to help them be as successful as they want to. So you take all those things, you will continue to grow your client list, and they will continue to come back to you because of what you do for them.